should also say lady of the press. I know they're not a lady. I'm here seated by some of the representatives of the Obidient movement, some of the leaders of our support groups, and some of those who have been driving the cause for good, for the change of narrative, for the birthing of a new Nigeria, and for support of Peter Obi's presidency. By my left is Mazi Ezoke, the convener, co-convener of the Peter Obi Support Network. Next is Dr. Mo Paul, who is also one of our veterans in this journey, driving quite a number of projects to support this cause. We have Princess, who is supporting us actively at the campaign council, and Dixon Irebu, somebody very familiar with all of you. This afternoon, we've decided to invite the members of the press for this very important announcement. In this year, 2023, as the election draws near, the Obidient movement will move to adopt candidates in the gubernatorial, I would say gubernatorial and governorship race in different states, as well as the House of Assembly. And I will dwell a little bit more on that. I'll read this prepared release, and then I'll explain further, and we'll provide an opportunity for a Q&A. The Obidient movement, the national citizen-led and non-partisan political movement of Nigeria, Nigerians supporting Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, is pleased to announce that it will carefully consider and extensively consult with stakeholders across the country to announce the adopted governorship and state assembly candidates in states, particularly where the Labour Party doesn't have candidates. The adopted candidates would be chosen because of their track records as honest citizens, their dedication to the welfare of their people, and most importantly, their alignment with the values and principles of the Obidient movement, and their public support for the election of His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, as the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Obedience movement will fully back these candidates in the upcoming governorship and House of Assembly elections, and will work hard to ensure they win as a reciprocal gesture of their support for Mr. Peter Obi. We will be announcing the names of the candidates before the elections, and we will mobilize all our members, supporters, and the general public to come out en masse to vote these candidates on March 11, 2023. We believe that with the right leadership and good governance as espoused by the aspirational and candidacy of Mr. Peter Obi, Nigeria can achieve its full potential and become a prosperous and thriving nation. The Obedience movement remains committed to this vision and will continue to work towards its realization. Thank you very much. Now, by way of further explanation, clearly, there are many states where we don't have 100% of the candidates, both at the governorship and State House of Assembly. And a number of these candidates have started making effort moves to support the candidacy of Peter Obi. We want to encourage that. We welcome people who may not be members of Labour Party, who may be members of APC, PDP, SDP, PRP, AA, all of these other parties who decide to be obedient. Being obedient does not necessarily mean being a member of Labour Party. Labour Party is the platform that Obedients are using to push the candidacy of Mr. Peter Obi. However, when we identify those people we consider as comrades, as friends, as supporters, as sympathizers, it's incumbent on the Obedient movement to galvanize as a force for good to make sure the right candidates eventually succeed by way of reciprocity. And in the same token, we are carefully watching to see those that will create tensions, violence, any form of, discomfort for the Obedient movement in the presidential election. And there will be a payback time. So it's important that this message goes out, and we need to see these candidates come out clearly to identify with us. Speak out, speak up, because we know if you really wish Nigeria well, you have no option. If it means sacrificing your own ambition for us to get Nigeria right, just like Governor Thomas done, has said, that's patriotism. That's what we want to encourage. Come out and tell the world that you are backing the Obidient. You may have your presidential candidate and you know it's not good enough for Nigeria. It is okay to focus on the Nigeria's cause than your party's cause. And so we want to encourage everybody that Obedient movement, when we consolidate our effort, there's nothing as powerful in this country today as that. And we will use that to make sure the right things are done. We don't want just Nigeria having the right leader at the federal level. We want to see Nigeria have the right leaders at the state and by extension even further to the local government levels. So we are also using this medium to tell the Obedient movement, be on the guard, watch out, and at appropriate time, we will engage publicly and privately to see which of these candidates in each of these states we're going to support. And we will come out en masse, and we will use our might, we'll use our force, we'll use our weight to make sure the right things are done. Thank you very much. Any questions, any comments?
All right. My name is Daniel Egoga, and I'm asking this question on behalf of Lisbon Television. So, for the avoidance of doubt, if in a state like Rivers State, for example, what this statement implies is that if anybody in that state, whether you're a governor or whoever you are, comes out to antagonize the candidacy of Mr. P2B, for example, and then you have a governorship candidate, or you are the governorship candidate yourself, the Obedient movement in that state will be organized to make sure that there is a payback time. So is that what this statement implies? You rub my back, I rub yours.
You couldn't have explained it better. So what that means is, for all the candidates, for instance, in Rivers, like in your example, we need to make sure our voters are protected. We need to make sure rigging does not happen. We need to make sure no violence. We need to make sure the will of the people is allowed to prevail. And any attempt by anybody to counter that, to suppress that, to cause any form of discomfort to the Obidient family, Obedient people are strong enough to resist and to pay back. It's that simple. Thank you.
All right. My name is Son Suat from Leadership Newspaper. Now, we talk about supporting candidates that are supporting Obidient. How are you going to identify these candidates, considering the fact that politicians can be in can be supporting one person in the afternoon, in the evening they are supporting a different candidate.
Thank you very much. To be honest, one thing in politics, there's nothing hidden. Election will come in a few days' time, 72 hours from today. We will check and review the performance of Labour Party at the presidential level in all the states. Easily, the Obidient will provide intelligence as to what has happened. They will identify those who have helped us to make sure we win maximally. We get our 25% spread in some of the states. We also make sure the opponents don't get up to 25%. There are yardsticks we're using to check how we've performed. And we will know the role each person has played in actualizing these objectives. And what I also think you probably may mean from your question is, where we have two candidates or more supporting us, how do we 0 to 1? And this is where all those other criteria will come to play. Their track record, their character, their competence, and then the public perception, what the people of those states. So we don't want an imposition into any states. We want to make sure that what the public, what the people are already saying, we just simply add impetus to it and make sure that comes to bear. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Kennedy. We are report for NTA. Like you mentioned, the election is coming in the next 72 hours. I want to know how prepared the Labour Party is or the Obidient movement is. I ask this because there are videos circulating online, people complaining that the party has not been able to mobilize canvassers and polling agents that will work for them on election day. So how prepared is the party ahead of this election?
Thank you very much. I'm sure you know the answer to this question. I don't know your definition of mobilization. Labour Party's presidential ticket, it is such that you can simply define as divine. What we have done all through the months leading up to today has been organic. It is a combination of many factors, one being a rejection of the old, and two, that hunger, that quest to build a new Nigeria, and the hope that that new Nigeria is indeed possible. So what you find is our voters are already self-mobilized. They're already energized. The momentum is very high. And you're going to see turnout more than you've ever seen before. You're going to see new-time voters that have never voted before, including those who had their PVC years back, but because of the candidates of P2B are eager to get to the ballots. You're going to see many diasporans who already started trooping to Nigeria just to vote for P2B. And so what I'm saying to you is that for us, this election is already won. Our mandate is to make sure the voters stay vigilant, ready to defend the mandate. And that's why we are going to also be introducing a number of apps to make sure we record everything that happens on that day. Already, you know about the Town Hall app that helps us to organize at the grassroots level. There are other election day apps, and we've also set up all the situation rooms to monitor that everything goes well. For those who continue to doubt, polls after polls have shown that P2B is ahead, and in some cases by miles. Nobody questions that he would win handsomely in the Southeast. The margin we see will shock a lot of people. If any other party put their votes together and it comes up to 5%, they'll be lucky in the Southeast. In the South-South, I can also tell you other parties will struggle to get 25%, and they won't, because P2B is going to dominate every single one of the 6 states in the South-South. In the Southwest, initially, prediction was that Asiwaju will win Southwest because that's where he's based. But I'm sure if you check their body temperature in their campaign, they will know that P2B is trending far better than they ever imagined. And so, Nigerians will be shocked that P2B will win Southwest. We've seen that. A poll came out initially to throw up P2B as coming first in Lagos, Ogun State, Oyo, and Ekiti. So people started doubting second in Ondo and Osun State. But I have news for them, that even those places is marked as being second are looking very good. Now, if you want to wonder why the case, people again are tired of the status quo and the old order. I think the other parties have done us a massive favor by presenting their candidates. And thankfully, the youths of Nigeria are rising up to the occasion. So, if you have this momentum in the whole of South, then go into North Central, where again people have seen how well we're doing in places like Abuja, where we are today, in Plateau, in Benue, in Nasarawa, and clearly, I'm talking about North Central, and clearly, in places like Kogi, Kwara, and Niger, we are looking sure to get a minimum of 25%. And with all these states I've mentioned so far, that's already 23 states. For those who are also wondering, is it going to get spread? Before you now go to Northeast, where you see P2B doing extremely well in places like Adamawa, in Taraba, in Borno, and in Gombe. And if bring it to Northwest, good news in Northwest is that everybody is fighting for superiority. Among the 4 candidates, by the way, P2B could win Northwest. Kwankwaso could win Northwest. Atiku could win Northwest. Asiwaju could win Northwest. Beautiful. So let's divide it apart so that Northwest is not useful to any one of us. So that's the plan. The plan here is that P2B will be the only candidate that can win on first instance without any runoff. So for those who are planning for runoff, INEC, we're going to save you money because there will be no runoff.
Absolutely.
There's one behind.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Adekule Guruji from China. My question is this: ADC allowed the structure to be done in South Tower. I want to ask if there's any other political parties that we need to know that will also be closer to endorse Mr.
Thank you. The two that made the announcements are ADC and Boot Party. There are many parties who are obedient. But like you know, I actually believe there are more silent obedience than the vocal ones.
Correct.
Especially when you go to places like the Southwest and the North, where some fear repercussion, attacks, threats, and some have been beneficiaries of some of the people who are on the ballot. But what you find is, if the elderly ones find it difficult to profess, their children are not. And so I heard a beautiful story from a Southwest lady, young girl who is schooling abroad, picked up her phone, called her dad. Daddy, who are you going to vote for? And the father answered, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of course. And said, Daddy, why? And he answered, you know this money I'm using to train you abroad, if not for Asiwaju? And young girl said, from today, you cease to pay my school fees. I'll take care of myself, and drop the phone. That's the force of the obedient. So what this means is, as of today, I don't know if the father has been able to speak to her again to beg that. So no, you know what? I beg you, I'm going to now vote for Peter Obi to reconcile with the family. This, when you see a force for good, when you see something that's so divine, just stand aside. Don't be in the way. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, sir, so ask if it will be safe to imply that this position does not encourage cross carpet. It's not that people should vote according to their conscience for the right candidate.
Correct. And I must add that P2B has no hand in what we are doing today. Baba Ahmed Dati, no hand in what we're doing today. These are the Obedients coming together to say we will unite as a force for good. So, if you are happy to cross carpet and join Labour, we more than welcome you. If you want to decide to remain in your party and support our candidacy, fantastic. If you even decide that you won't join any party at all, like many Nigerians are, but you're supporting the Obidient, you're more than welcome.
My name is Michael Igeto. I'm the publisher of Crossfire Report. Given that you have less than 48 hours for public campaigning and display of symbols, there's a fear that yes, the Obidient movement is why people who support Peter Obi are cut across a lot of states of the federation and different strata of society. However, there's a fear that some of these people don't really know the symbol of the Labour Party. Is there any plan that you have within this window of 48 hours to put this symbol of the Labour Party in the public domain on TV and on social media? So people just, put it on their display status and all that. Do you have any such plans, sir?
I am sure everybody here is obedient, even though you may not want to confess. And so what you do when you go home, find an answer to this problem. But let me assure you, we are data-centric organization. We are scientific in our dealings. Yes, we've tested it. A lot of people actually actively confuse people. Actively. So it's not just about ignorance. People actually actively confuse people. Some use some of the assets of the old elections where Peter B was under either ABGA or PDP to confuse some of the people. However, there have been polls that have come out. Polls that use name and polls that use the party and logos. The good news is that in each of these polls, Peter B comes first, Labour Party comes first. But what you find is that when his name is used, the margin is small. So there's a gap. And that gap, there have been a lot of messages, social media, and all that. And we're advertising now massively, TV commercials, and channels on Arise, on different other channels, on HIP TV. It's all going. But we may never do it enough. So we encourage our voters, as you hear our voices, please do your best to educate everybody. Labour Party, you won't see the name on the ballot. P2B, you won't see his face on the ballot. What you're going to see is the logo of Papa, Mama, Pekin. So you probably may not even see LP.
Exactly.
What you're going to see is the logo Papa, Mama, Pekin.
So
you're going to see forward ever. Take the message. If you're one of those quiet, silent, obedient, take the message to your families, to your homes. It will help us. God bless you.
Last question here.
Yeah. Why do you think it's last question? Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. My name is Friday Olapawu with the Punch newspapers. Recently, we read and we reported of some incidents that happened in Lagos.
Yeah.
When your Indian movements or members were reported reportedly attacked, and it was reported that somebody's hands, one of your supporters, has his hands chopped off or amputated. Now, this incident happened during the visit of your presidential candidates. Now, the election is just a few hours. Flashpoints like Lagos and some other areas, there are fears that if this could happen, when the election has not even taken place, only God knows what might really happen on election day, you know, because according to some of your members, your determination to make sure that Peter Obi wins this election is a battle of no retreat, no surrender. Now, I'm just trying to visualize what is going to happen that very day, because you might have enemies.
I can help you. I can help you.
You might have enemies everywhere. So,
you know the beautiful thing. So there's. I don't want to take too long in asking, but I think the message is clear. How Lagos is going to look like. Lagos is going to be peaceful. I believe so. I can bet on it. I have to commend the president of this country, Muhammadu Buhari. I have to also commend the security agencies. I think while it's unfortunate what happened on the day of our campaign and the TBS around there happened, while we sympathize with the victims, it was not even reported. They were all there. All the media people saw them, interviewed some of them. So everybody saw. I was there physically to speak to some of them. And we are making sure that we provide some succor to the family, to the people wounded, and make sure they have less to regret about. And I'm also happy with what has been taking place in Lagos. In fact, today I saw flashpoints of some protests at the U.S. Embassy where people are fingering some of the people, actors in the violence, planning plots in Lagos State. I believe everybody in Lagos should be careful going forward and be in check. But the way I've seen a number of security people around Lagos demonstrates that this government is serious about free, fair, and credible process in this exercise. And so I don't think that no matter the plots of the violent ones, I don't see that coming to pass. And one thing for sure is the dominance of P2B in Lagos is alarming. The supporters of P2B will overwhelm in every part of Lagos. So it's no longer where you say, oh, we are targeting some spots, Igbo communities and stuff like that. It doesn't exist. Even in spots that are predominantly Yorubas or Northerners, they are P2B spots. So that's the good news. And so I believe the message we should be sending out is go out there, come out in mass and vote. Some of these things happen when only few people come out. When we throng out, when we come out forcefully in mass, trust me, everybody. And let me also tell you this, even the criminals are tired of their criminality. They need a new change. And P2B, they know, is the answer.